very prominent female YouTuber, or I'm sorry, I should say, a very prominent cisgendered heterosexual female YouTuber has made a video calling out cis women who are transphobic, saying that if you feel that the essence of womanhood is challenged by transgender ideology, you're incorrect. She states that every trans woman is a real woman, and anybody with a pulse knows that. But I have a pulse, last time I checked, and I disagree. So we're gonna get straight into reacting to Jackie Aina. For those of you who do not know who Jackie Aina is, she is an OG makeup guru, beauty guru. She's very big on YouTube and has been for quite some time. And YouTube has really boosted her fame. She's very well known, at least within the beauty community. So if you've seen this face before, let's hear her message about transgenderism and being a cisgendered woman who is in no way threatened by the transgender existence.
I'm a cisgendered heterosexual woman, and I'm trying to figure out when in the hell did transphobia become so normalized? It is deeply concerning. And before you ask, Jackie, if it doesn't apply, why do you care? Newsflash, bud, I don't have to be directly impacted by someone else's marginalization in order to care about that. Isn't that shocking? That's crazy.
Oh my gosh, we already have the leftist condescension going on, which, oh my God, all these videos that I come across on TikTok of somebody who's just explaining how great of a person they are, it always has this sort of condescending undertone to it, and this video is clearly no exception. She has labeled herself an ally, which thus puts her on a higher moral ground than all of those around her. So get on the same level as Jackie, apparently.
That's crazy. It's called having a pulse. Let's just talk about the first thing. The word cisgendered is not an insult. Trans women are by no means in any way a threat to my womanhood. I don't want this video to feel like a confrontation for other cisgendered women, because sometimes I think it's just misdirected anger. But the stuff that I see lately has gotten a little too normalized. Trans women are women, whether you like it or not.
Okay. Says who? Says who? Trans women are women, whether or not we like it or not. And let's first respond to this cisgender argument. First of all, I outright do not claim the term cisgendered. It's something that is made up, fabricated, and thrown onto biological women as a means of, I guess, separating them from those who are women but were not born women, which we all know is something that does not exist. Well, I guess I shouldn't say we all know, because Jackie is not on the same wavelength here. I outright reject the term. I am simply a woman, a biological woman at that, if that's even how far we want to go. And in my mind, there are women and men. And it's not that I feel that my existence is threatened by biological men who are claiming to be women. It's that the very nature of reality is threatened by these ideas when we decide to bend over and say, you know what? I'm going to give into what you believe your identity to be, even though science doesn't match up with it, even though every single metric that we have for analyzing sex does not line up with that, and even though something deep within me is telling me that you are in fact not a woman and I am, I guess I'm just going to give in to that. We don't have to, even though Jackie Aina is saying outright that all trans women are women whether we like it or not. That's not true, and you don't have to bend down to the pressure of these big creators who are trying to thrust their ideology onto you. But let's keep listening.
Their experiences and their womanhood don't devalue yours at all. If your womanhood is threatened by another woman's existence, it's time to evaluate some other things.
I can guarantee my existence is not threatened by another woman's existence when it comes to this argument. And let's talk about the devaluing of womanhood and why some women may feel that way when analyzing gender ideology, gender theory, and maybe the lives of some people claiming to be transgender women. Oftentimes we'll see with this identity of being a trans woman, it comes with certain social characteristics that these people then take on. It can be a wig, it can be a dress, it can be makeup, it can be surgeries and operations, vocal feminization, and how that really is communicated to me, it seems like a caricature of womanhood. These things on their own do not make you a woman. These things in sum do not make you a woman. What makes you a woman is the experience of being born a woman, having female chromosomes. Every single part of my being is female, and I can say the same for the other biological women around me. I cannot say the same for a biological man who is claiming to be a woman. So when somebody raises their hand and says, I feel feel like this devalues the very nature of womanhood. It's because it's a caricature of womanhood, and that it is based on stereotypes that we are witnessing in the women and females, whatever word you want to use, around us. It is quite literally devaluing to think that on any given day, you can wake up and say, I now identify as a woman, and simply be that with a snap of your fingers. Even though many of these individuals claim to have felt this way their entire life or since the day they were born, what does it mean to feel like a woman? I would love that to be explained by anybody who is experiencing this in their lives, anybody like Jackie Aina who is defending this sort of ideology. Explain to me what it means to feel like a woman if you were not born one. And this is where arguments of devaluing really come into play, and where those arguments are pretty strong and very valid, but she would rather throw them out the window.
You gotta be transphobic to be that girl, then maybe you're just not that girl, okay? Stop it. It's too much. I'm tired. And I'll see these crazy videos.
It's so funny because, okay, we're speaking in slang here. If you have to be transphobic to be that girl, then really you're not that girl. But if we're going on this sort of like lame definition of what transphobia is, which just means that you think there are only two genders, you kind of do have to be transphobic to be that girl, because girl exists within the binary at the opposite of boy. So if you want to be that girl, I guess you have to be transphobic by the left's definition. Now, I often don't take on the word of transphobia either, because it sort of insinuates that you're scared of something. I've been called a TERF, a transphobe, every single phrase under the sun, and you can throw the label at me. But really, what I'm saying is I believe in the binary, and we're not crossing over on that binary either. You are the sex that you were born as, and that might be an unfortunate truth for many. And I don't wish the struggle of gender dysphoria onto anybody. I recognize the struggle that it is, and I understand that it's a very difficult thing to deal with in life, but you are the sex that you were born as. So you do kind of have to be transphobic to be that girl. Sorry, guys.
On my timeline and all of the thousands of comments, and I would absolutely not want to see another generation of women become radicalized. We used to name and shame people who felt comfortable being openly transphobic. What the hell happened? I am well aware that as a Black woman, I cannot save everyone. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell anybody else that's in a marginalized group that you gotta save everybody too.
Oh, the identity politics just runs so deep within this individual. You can tell that being a Black woman is really important for her, that she carries a lot of victimization with that label, even though she is an extremely successful Black woman. I shall say that that's despite, I guess, the barriers that she's faced in her life, even though those barriers have apparently landed her in being a multi-millionaire if we're just looking at her YouTube numbers and the products that she sells online. But nonetheless, she is a victim. And there's this whole narrative that Black women have to take on the oppression of others and have to take on these movements to carry others through and to help other marginalized folks. And she very clearly identifies with that characterization of Black women. And I guess good for her. But in some of the things that I'm seeing, no, not really trying to armchair psychoanalyze her. She clearly enjoys the moral high ground that she receives from being a Black woman who also identifies as an ally. She would love to save and advocate for and be an ally of every single marginalized community. And she really let it slip when she said we used to name and shame people who are transphobic, meaning that her real adherence to this ideology is not necessarily to uplift trans people, but to punch down on people who she deems to be transphobic. And what does it mean to name and shame? What would you like to happen to people who identify with and claim the sexual binary, the sex-based binary that we've lived under for all of human civilization? She claims that the people with my opinion are the ones being radicalized. I'd argue that she's been radicalized into gender theory and this sort of gender identity matrix that's been created, over the past few decades, if that?
What I will say is you will absolutely never see me participating in rhetoric and harmful messaging that makes it harder for trans people. Ever, 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 Tiffany.
Ever, 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 Tiffany. Ever in a million years.
Because the stuff that y'all are saying is not even, the points are not being made. The threats that people think exist at our womanhood are just not coming from trans people. They're just not. And remember, ladies, if they not free, they being trans women, we won't be either. We gotta look at history, guys. guys. I'm getting a little spooked. It's getting weird. Okay, well, glad we had that chat. Stay classy, ladies.
Okay. So much in the final moments of that video. First of all, she says if trans people are not free, we are not free either. I don't know what basis she has for that argument, given that a lot of the trans existence actually infringes on the definitions that we have for womanhood, femininity, our female spaces. So arguably, the proliferation of trans ideology actually infringes on the spaces, the rights, and the lives of women. Now, you can say that we feel threatened by this, or you could say we have actually very valid concerns that we are raising our hands and trying to bring to the public. And these are not just my concerns. Several women, or cisgendered women, as Jackie Aina would like to refer to them, are echoing these sentiments. I'd argue that she should go check out a little bit of what J.K. Rowling has to say before she claims that there is no threat or ill will being posed to women on the other side of this ideology. We've seen this take place. I can give you example after example. I'll rattle off a few. And to leave it to Jackie to maybe do the rest of her investigating on this matter, if she's even willing to do so. We've seen the encroachment in female sports. We've seen the encroachment in female spaces, our bathrooms, our locker rooms. We've seen many a sexual assault victim be born out of this ideology, with trans-identifying individuals going into female spaces, assaulting women, exposing themselves to women, and thus creating female victims on the other end of these theories about gender. We've seen this in the female prison system. We've seen it under our current Biden administration with the rewrite of Title IX, which strips women of rights that they were granted in the initial writing of the Title IX document. And I could go on and on and on, not to mention the definitional problems that we're now experiencing as women. Problems that Jackie has highlighted in her video by using phrases like cisgendered and labeling herself and saying that that label is in no way a threat to her existence and womanhood. Other people don't feel that way. We're seeing it with pregnant people, with lactating individual, with person with a uterus. The list is endless, and I'm curious if Jackie Aina doesn't believe that that impacts her as a woman. Why is it not okay for other women to feel as though it does? Why do they need to be named and shamed for the sake of trans people, when at the end of the day, we are looking at biological men who are identifying as women? So Jackie Aina may say that she's a feminist. She may say that she is advocating for marginalized individuals, but she is in fact advocating on behalf of men. I mean, I don't know what that says about your ideology. I don't know what that says about your character when you're willing to close your eyes and ears to real-life female victims who are trying to air out their grievances and let you know that something you're supporting may be impacting them, and negatively so. But I will leave that with you, Jackie. And hopefully not with the condescending voice that you did in your video. That's my response, guys. Let me know how you feel about what she had to say down below, especially if you're a woman, a cisgendered woman who doesn't exactly like being referred to as a cisgendered woman. Let me know. And as always, if you disagree with anything I said in this video, you can duke it out, but do so respectfully. I hope this does not come off as an attack directly on transgender individuals, but more an argument and a conversation about how gender ideology impacts people in ways that we might not think of on a day-to-day basis. I can understand seeing a group of people that is labeled as marginalized, who is clearly going through an emotional, a physical, and a mental struggle, and thinking these people need to be advocated for, these people need allies. And in some ways that is very much true. But they don't need to be advocated for in a way that encroaches on women's lives, their rights, their spaces, their privacy. Again, I could go on. So let me know what you think. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every day. And I will see ya next time. Bye, guys.